Welcome back to Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, your host, each and every weekday morning, breaking things down for you in the land of Lincoln so you can understand as a taxpayer how government's impacting you. And we've got one segment we're going to do today with the election coming up. March 17th is the primary date, but believe it or not, Thursday, I believe, is the first day you can go to the county offices and actually start casting your ballot. Holy cow, we're already here. So to talk about that, we're going to continue our series of conversations with candidates for the Republican nomination. We already talked with Ted Dabrowski several weeks ago, have another one lined up and hoping to secure the fourth, but we've got Darren Bailey, who's going to join us up here next live for Illinois in Focus Daily. So I appreciate you guys being here each and every weekday morning as we hook you up with the latest of what's going on in the land of Lincoln. It's hard to believe that the March 17th primary is weeks away, and we're just days away from Thursday being the day that you can go to your county election office and cast your ballot for either the Republican primary or the Democrat primary. Now, a lot of decisions people need to make. Of course, which ballot are they going to grab, a Republican or a Democrat ballot? But depending on that ballots, they could have a ton of different choices for different candidates of elected office. One of those, you've got the Republicans vying for the opportunity to take on Governor J.B. Pritzker in November. There's four candidates. You've got DuPage County Sheriff Jim Mendrick, businessman Rick Heidner, analyst Ted Dabrowski, and former state senator and former Republican gubernatorial candidate Darren Bailey. And Bailey joins us now here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Darren, thanks for taking time with us this morning. And just want to, again, send my condolences to you and your family for the horrible loss you guys suffered this past year. So appreciate you being here on the program today.
Oh, let me hear as well. Thank you so much for the sympathy. I appreciate that.
So let's get right into it. I've got a series of questions that I've been posing different candidates for the Republican primary, and with Thursday right around the corner, it just seems appropriate that we connect with you. So how would you distinguish yourself from other Republican candidates vying for the ticket?
Well, I think we learned a lot from 2022, and most importantly, we learned that people aren't showing up to vote. I truly believe the pendulum will shift our way if we can get a 60+% turnout of registered voters. So I think, I've stood for the people. I know what's taking place in Springfield. They know that I won't waver to the shifting winds, and that's that's why we're running. 6 months ago, I had no intentions on running, but then friends and people across Illinois began to call and encourage and talk, and we had some really good people come around the table because we realized, the question is, can a Republican get elected? Yeah, actually we can. Can a downstate farmer get elected? Yeah, that's not necessarily an obstacle, but probably the most important question is, what's the focus? How do we get elected? So we have everything that we did in 2022 to take a look at, and first and foremost is voter turnout. But then obviously we have the message, and J.B. Pritzker, I believe, has given us everything that we need on a silver platter. He's property taxes, energy prices. People can't afford to live in this state. Our friends in Chicago cannot afford this, and safety. I don't think I need to talk a whole lot about that. That's now come down to Peoria, Kankakee, down into other large cities. These problems that we're having because of the Safety Act, and then ultimately a failed educational system. So we've got all that we're looking at. We've got the message. We've got to bind the party together, and we know from what needs to be done differently this election cycle versus 22. And I think we've got a wonderful team. The grassroots movement is still intact, And I think that's why I'm obviously jumped into the race, because I felt that there was just a lack of this boldness and courage of someone who will actually stand up and do what needs to be done for Illinois.
Now, you faced this in 2020 some. Curious how you navigate what could be, or something you've already experienced, a hostile press.
So yeah, you're right, but I think the message now is on our side. I mean, the press wants to be hostile. This ICE and this immigration situation. We've got a lot of work that we need to do as a state there, but we need to back up. And first and foremost, anybody that's frustrated and angry about federal agents being in Illinois and in Chicago dealing with this, well, we need to ask the real question: why are they here? They're here because J.B. Pritzker failed to do his job. If he would simply be doing what he should be doing, which is upholding and honoring the law of the land, I don't think we wouldn't be having the discussion or the concern. So, like I said, property taxes, energy, failed education, and safety. Those are the issues that we're staying focused on, because those are the issues that the multitude of Illinoisans have in common. These problems, and that scenario and landscape didn't necessarily exist in 2022.
Darren, you touched on this a little bit before, but how do you break through in Chicago, in the suburbs? You are the only downstate candidate. The others are from the suburbs, but how do you get through to Chicago?
Well, I think that's the beauty of this combination with me and my running mate, Aaron Del Mar. I mean, the Cook County GOP chair. He's been navigating Chicago and Cook County politics for the last 20 years, and he understands it. And Illinois, the rest of Illinois needs a governor. Our small town issues, even in Springfield, we've got sewage systems, we've got infrastructure that's wasting away. I mean, my goodness, J.B. Pritzker and the legislature just pulled 1.5 billion from the gas tax or road infrastructure and pushed it up to Chicago Transit Authority, and where there's no accountability. And Greg, I was up there 2 weeks ago. People are getting on those trains and they're not paying anything. They're allowing people just to get on board. And this all started, they say, after this 1.5 billion bailout was pushed their way. So we've got a plan, because we looked, getting into every one of the wards in Chicago. I mean, let's face it, the people in Chicago, they know who I am. They know my name, and we've had some wonderful press coverage up there in the last several months and been able to get this message out. And matter of fact, many of the Chicago news sources are dubbing me as a Darren Bailey 2.0. They see a change, that maybe I carried the conservative flag too hard across all the state, because they didn't necessarily understand the people in Chicago like I should have. I believe I do now, and I believe that partnering with Aaron Del Mar is going to open up many, many doors, as already have. And I think that's where we're going to have the turnout, because the people in Chicago are frustrated. And because this whole tax situation has finally hit their pocketbooks. They can't afford it. They're angry. Nothing's being done about it. So I think that come November, people are going to be looking for change all across this state.
You mentioned people in Chicago being fed up. We've seen that in city council meetings. We've seen that with organizations like Chicago Flips Red. How do you see those types of groups in Chicago benefiting your campaign?
Well, that's already happening as well. So if you, what was it, last Friday evening, we had a joint Facebook Zoom meeting that's on our page. So we are partnering with that organization. They see us as the only team that's going to actually step up and put our money where our mouth is and do something. So that's exactly what's happening. These groups are seeking our team out. And it's kind of exciting, because they are the ones. That's what we need at the end of the day, just like we need on March 18, and we're going to be hosting a breakfast up in Springfield, and uniting, bringing the Republican Party together, pushing all these side differences apart. Because let's be honest, after the primary in 2022, just about everybody walked away. They just walked away. If their team didn't win, they were angry, and they stayed that way. We cannot allow that to happen anymore. So we need to bring the party together. We need to work in unison, and and win this state back. And there are many groups in Chicago that are ready for that, that are actually, as you suggest, showing up to these city council meetings, and they're frustrated, and we've already joined with them.
That unity breakfast still on even the day after the primary if you lose?
I don't believe that's going to be an issue and an option. So we are going to have that unity breakfast. But yes, I will be a part, one way or the other, of uniting this party, because we must. There's too much divisiveness within our own ranks, and people get mad, they get angry, and we're seeing that right now. I was really hoping this primary would stay peaceful, but we released some poll numbers last week, and I think some of the other organizations have I think it's sunk in that those numbers are real, and then so therein comes the politics that's played to try to clamber back up the ladder, and unfortunately, it's dirty politics, it's rumors, it's lies, it's just slander, and anyway, we're trying to shield that, just push back. I'm not getting into that game. And at the end of the day, I'll be there to welcome everybody back with open arms.
Darren, obviously you've gone up against Governor J.B. Pritzker before, millions and millions and millions of dollars involved. How do you go up against Pritzker's millions?
Well, I don't know that money is going to be an issue this time, because I really believe that between now and November, people are going to start seeing, as we already are seeing, that this man's running for president. He wants to make a socialist experiment out of Illinois, and then he wants to parade around a year or two from now and say, "Look what I was able to accomplish in Illinois, and I'll do the same thing for everyone in this nation." Because the reality, we know that a constitutional republic exists to protect the people. But in his world, he believes that government should provide for the people. So that's kind of what we're fighting against. So we've got, the exodus in Illinois is real. The issues of corporate tax in Illinois being twice what it is in Indiana and Iowa, that hurts, because business is leaving, people are leaving. So like I said, our good friends in Chicago are experiencing something that they have not experienced in years, maybe decades, and that's just this pinch on their pocketbooks. And they get it. Anybody, whether it's Kankakee, whether it's Peoria, knows now, whether it's the Metro East, whether it's Carbondale, they understand that they could be walking down the street and somebody could come up, throw a cup of gasoline on them, light them on fire, and be walking the streets the next day. And our future's not being treated fairly, because our schools, by the state's own admission, is failing. So that's our message. J.B. Pritzker's doubled down on that on the last 7 years and hasn't budged any. So that's what I believe is going to turn and catapult Illinois in a new direction.
So all the questions thus far have been about the primary and distinguishing yourself from the other Republican candidates in the field. But let's say you get elected and the legislature doesn't change to Republicans. I mean, let's face it, we've got gerrymandered maps in the state of Illinois, but say you get into office, you beat J.B. Pritzker. How do you work with a Democratic legislature? Because, Darren, we saw former Governor Bruce Rauner and the 2.5-year budget impasse, the toxic politics that was involved. How do you do that? How do you work with the Democratic legislature?
Well, I think that's my experience in the House and in the Senate is going to lend, immensely toward making that happen. This toxic politics, we cannot have that anymore. This divide. And when I'm up north with our friends, I challenge everyone. I say, hey, if you've got a Democrat state rep or a Democratic state Senate, and they served with me, ask them what they think about me, because many times when I hear back, they'll agree that, oh gosh, I don't agree with anything he stands for, but he was very respectful, and he listened. And there are some stories that I've shared on the campaign trail of how actually Greg Harris came to me with help, wanting help with the pharmaceutical bill. Senator Passion Zayas came to me with needing some help, Republican help, and we got that help, and both of those bills were able to pass. So I think that when Governor Rauner, he built a wall, went to war against Madigan, went to war against the unions. That's a no starter in Illinois. So I think that the shockwaves that are going to be sent when we win in November are going to force, number one, the Democrats to the table. And I'll be up early. The door will be open. The table will have chairs around it. And I think that my communication, that's why I'm here, Greg. You know that when you started to, every time I'd walk out of the walk out of the house in the early days, and if I was sometimes the lone no vote for something, and I let people know, then I went to social media to just explain to people, this is how government's working, this is how your state representatives are failing you, or these are the good things that they've done. And by the grace of God, that grew exponentially. So I will have to communicate to all Illinoisans on a routine basis, and hold all the state representatives and the state senators accountable, so that they are at that seat at that table, and we begin this hard work of making life in Illinois more affordable, more safe, and building up our education.
What about the Trump administration? If you get into office, you'll have 2 more years of President Donald Trump. The situation really hasn't been that cooperative between the land of Lincoln and the Trump administration, but how would you work with the Trump administration to benefit Illinois the best?
Well, there's with this education funding that President Trump is withholding. He's withholding that because J.B. Pritzker refuses to go through the proper channels that have always existed to gain that funding. He's just snubbing his nose at Trump. Says, no, I'm not going to sign these papers and give you access to what Illinois should be giving to get access. I'll be working cooperative with whoever is president. But at the end of the day, the people of Illinois need to understand that I will be the governor of Illinois, and I will be working and representing the people of Illinois, and I will have to work with the General Assembly to get anything done. So to assume or to think or believe that all these Trump-esque policies or whatever anyone is scared of or afraid of, there's no need for that in Illinois, because we've got everything that we need. If we just have some common sense and try to make life more affordable, more safe, and improve our education. I mean, that's our focus.
Let's talk about some of the issues impacting Illinois taxpayers. High property taxes. We went from second highest behind New Jersey to some of the latest data indicating that we're now the highest in the nation. How do you tackle that as governor if this issue really comes down to how local governments levy taxes on property?
Well, it does, but I got my driver's license in 1982, and I went back for some did some research, and this 1982 date popped up. Since 1982, the Illinois General Assembly has imposed over 700 mandates on public education. And guess what? Almost exactly half of those mandates are unfunded mandates. So there's several things taking place there that we need to roll back and free up our education process, and give the power back to the parents and the local school boards, and instead of telling them what they must do, and then we're not going to help pay for anything. So we roll that back. A lot of these infrastructure projects that are taking place in our schools. There's half of that money comes from the state, and then the other half they have to raise their local property taxes to make that happen. We need to have a message and make sure the people of Illinois are educated on that we live within our means. So, all of this is something the General Assembly could be working on right now to offer relief to the people. Right now, today, they could be in session. They could be working on this. They could be offering some relief to the high energy costs, but there's no desire to do that with J.B. Pritzker. So I think that we rolled out the Illinois Doge program. I want to make sure that people don't misconstrue that. Everybody knows what that name means, but what it means for me and our team is that on day one, we're going to begin busting that budget wide open and letting everyone know where every dollar is coming from and where every dollar is going. And I think we're going to expose a lot of waste when we do that. I mean, my gosh, just last year, $2.5 billion of our tax money giving people who are in Chicago and Illinois illegally free health care, free housing, and free food. We've got to reprioritize, because I think our veterans, I think our seniors, I think most Illinoisans want our money spent responsibly.
Another driver of local property taxes, and I see this all the time when local governments do their budgeting. Most of their property taxes, if not all, are going to pay for public sector pensions on a local level. That's just the local issue. You've got the state's pensions, the teachers' retirement system, and so on. That's $140 billion unfunded liability. The governor just put out something late last night about his plan to address the unfunded pension liability. How do we get a handle on that in the state of Illinois that already has high taxes all around?
Right, and let's make sure that we perfectly understand that the responsibility of the failure and the high cost of pensions lies solely at the feet of government. Governors of the past have kicked the can down the road. Legislators have taken this money and made deals and not honored therein. So let's understand that hard work lies at the feet of the next governor and the General Assembly. So J.B. Pritzker's had 7 years to address this, and he's failed. Except now he sees, oh, it's a talking point, and this may be a problem. So let's do something to address it. I do see that there does seem to be some light at the end of the tunnel from what I'm gathering and studying right now. I didn't see that in 2022. I want to make sure that anybody out there working for the state understands that there is no J.B. Pritzker sending out emails and telling everyone that, hey, Darren Bailey is going to take your pensions. That's the furthest thing from the truth. Those pensions are their retirement. They've earned that. They've paid for it. The state of Illinois has to protect that and honor that. And then what we do going to the future, I know there's some talk of giving people options of 401ks. And when you actually melt all of that down, me personally, I'd probably feel more secure with a 401k. But the reality is that's going to cost the state and the taxpayers a little bit more money because of the Social Security and all that, how that works, like payroll and what you got to pay into. So again, why are we waiting to such a late date to address these issues? It's a shame. And I'm going to contend that I believe that, when I got started in 2017, the Illinois started running in a primary, the General Assembly, our state budget was $32 billion, and today it's $56 billion. There's been an aggregated compounded net taxpayer money of almost $60 billion over the last 5-6 years that just went into this system because Illinois' solution every time there's a problem is more money. No accountability, no transparency, just more money. I believe that when we crack this budget open and start showing the people where all this is going, I think we're going to have most of what we need to work with to start tamping down on property taxes, energy prices, and especially working with our pensions.
Just a couple of more questions here. Darren, appreciate you taking the time here live with us here for Illinois in Focus Daily. Again, Darren is one of 4 candidates running for the Republican nomination for governor in Illinois. The March 17th primary has early voting starting February 5th at local county elections offices. Darren, public safety, top of mind for a lot of people. You have the Safety Act, no cash bail. You've got the Protect Illinois Communities Act, the gun ban. That's still being dealt with in the courts. You've got immigration policies. How, as governor, would you address public safety concerns?
I think that people are ready for the Safety Act to go away. I mean, that act in and of itself really just needs completely repealed because many of our wonderful men and women who serve and protect, they've retired early, they've moved out of state, they've taken other jobs because the role of law enforcement under J.B. Pritzker has lost its honor. So we need to bring that back. 1,600 vacancies in the city of Chicago alone. That's wrong. Most of our counties are lacking in finding people to serve. Most of our municipalities are lacking. So I think first and foremost, that has to be rolled back. The Trust Act's got to be rolled back. I mean, to prohibit state, local, federal law enforcement to work together, it's an absolute shame. People want to feel safe. That is the government's number one role, to protect people, and we're certainly not doing anyone any good as we read the headlines every day of what's taking place. So I think as we begin to prioritize law enforcement in our communities, in our counties, and in our cities, and we begin to build confidence again in our state and in our system, that's what's going to ultimately bring people and bring business back to this state. So I truly believe, again, that the people of Illinois, our friends in Chicago, they're definitely, I believe, going to be ready to make some changes, because what we're doing right now is just simply, it's not working. It's hazardous.
And finally, while we saw recent census numbers indicate the states grew for a third year in a row, but we're still not quite to where we were back in 2020. Darren, how do we get control of Illinois and actually make it grow, not just stagnate, not just have more international migration into the state than people moving out to other states. How do we reverse the trends that we've seen in the past decade?
And first and foremost, I'm not buying the idea that Illinois is growing in population. I mean, my goodness, 2 months ago, U-Haul alone came out, and Illinois was the number one state of U-Haul trailers and trucks leaving the state. So I'm not buying that at all. I think there's been a total misconstruation of illegal immigration, because these people are here illegally. They go to the driver's license, the DMV, and get their driver's license, and then they're registered to vote. So I think there's some serious problems there that we need to work on, and that we need to work with in the future. But first and foremost, you've got to give people a reason to move back here. They can't. They've left, and they're not coming back because they can't afford it. They don't feel safe, and their children aren't being educated properly. That's by the state's own standards. I mean, we're seeing here over in Indiana, Indiana has this push for the southern southeast portion of Illinois that, hey, they've passed a law that says we want to take, 20 or 30 counties down here. And just 2 weeks ago, Iowa did the same thing with about 10 counties up in the Northwest. That's actually a genius move on those states. Those states have budgets that are operating in the black. Those states have their act together. What that's doing is causing businesses to take a look and question, why are we here in Illinois? So again, I mentioned it earlier, the corporate tax rate in Illinois is twice of what it is in Indiana and Illinois. Why would any business want to be here and conduct business with that kind of a tax rate? Illinois is perfectly positioned strategically, logistically, even for these people to operate, in a financially positive situation. They want to be in Illinois. We got the Great Lakes, we got the rivers all around us, we got rails, we got roads. We're right positioned where we need to be. We've got to make Illinois more affordable, safer, and improve our education so that business will come here and families will follow. And then that starts this economic engine, this driver of how then we truly take care of the pension debt, how we get Illinois back in the black and become the leader of this nation that we once were and that I believe we will be again.
Well, Darren, greatly appreciate your time as always. And again, March 17th is coming up right around the corner, but Thursdays when people can actually go and cast their ballot at their elections offices, and we'll be watching and staying tuned. All right, appreciate you taking the time this morning.
Thank you. Go to blueprintforillinois.com and check our plan out and the waste tracker we've got. Thank you so much.
All right, greatly appreciated. Darren Bailey, everyone, Republican candidate for governor. You've got the March primary, March 17th, but as I've said, February 5th is when you can go to your county office and actually cast that ballot. All right, it is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop with you each and every weekday morning here with the Center Square. So be sure to get the headlines in your inbox at thecentersquare.com. All right, that's all I got for you on this. What is it? It's Tuesday, right? It's not Friday yet. We do have Rick Heidner scheduled for next week, trying to line up Jim Mendrick. So we've already talked with Ted Dabrowski. We may revisit that sometime this week as we gear up for the Thursday early voting start. It's pretty incredible we're here already. All right, have yourself a wonderful rest of the day. Got to get out of here and get ready for the Center Square Daily, which is our new daily national program. Hopefully you're going to stay around for that as we continue developing the show. So appreciate you guys and your support for the Center Square. So get the headlines at thecentersquare.com.